Welcome back, everyone. So back here in our main page here on CodePen, so far we've created two examples using jQuery and JSON, and there's our main app here as well, which we'll continue working on soon. And let's create one more app where we're going to be using the Reddit API. So let's click New Pen, and we can just name this Reddit Thumbnail API. So let's type in Reddit Thumbnail API. And let's open up the settings and make sure we're also using the jQuery library. So in JavaScript, you can just quick add that jQuery and then save and close. And let's create our JavaScript code for getting our JSON data. So I'm just going to expand this for a bit and zoom in for you here. So this should be quite familiar by now. So it's jQuery.getJSON, and in here we add the URL to the JSON data, and then our callback function, which gets past that data. And then inside here we do stuff with the data. And then don't forget that semicolon as well. And I'll zoom back out. So with Reddit, you can type .json after any subreddit URL to get the data, the JSON data of that page. So I have open here the Reddit, the subreddit for web dev. And if you aren't following this, I suggest you do, because it's a nice place to discover some new web technologies or just to see what cool things people are working on. So anyway, whatever subreddit you have here, I'll just zoom in for you quick. So I'm here on the Reddit, the web dev subreddit, but you can be on whatever one you want. Just type in .json after it, hit enter, and zoom back out, and you can see we get a whole bunch of JSON data. So this is kind of hard to read, so what I'm going to do is copy this and paste it into an online JSON viewer. So I'm just going to press Ctrl A on my keyboard, press Ctrl C, and I'm going to open up a new tab and just do a Google search for JSON viewer. And it should be one of these links here. I believe the second one here is the one we're looking for. Yep. So I'm just going to clear this data we had in here from the last lecture. And I'm just going to press Ctrl V to paste in that data from the subreddit here. And then hit this arrow key. And we should get a nice structured view of our JSON data. So our goal is to get the thumbnail images from the subreddit. So if you go back here, hit the backspace to view that Reddit. So what we want to do is grab the URL for these thumbnail images here. So let's take a look at that data and see if we can find something like that. So inside this main object, we have a data object. Then here we have a children array, which contain a bunch of objects. So each object here, I believe, represents a thread here in this Reddit. So let's take a look at this first one here. You can see nested inside of it, we have another data attribute, and inside here somewhere, we should be able to find the thumbnail URL. And you can see right here, let me zoom in for you. We have a key here for thumbnail, and in fact it does hold the URL for the thumbnail. So you can just copy that and take a look at it quickly. Just open up a new tab and paste that. Perfect, so that's the URL for the thumbnail for that first post right here. So I'll just close that for now. So not all posts have a thumbnail, so what we want to do is loop through these objects here. Let me just close this here. So we're going to loop through these objects and and then test to see if these threads or these objects have a URL, and if they do, we'll grab that. If they don't, then we'll just skip over it. So let me just close this back. So let's go back into CodePen and then modify our code. So first of all, let's get rid of this placeholder here and paste in the URL for the JSON data. So we'll just type .json again after that subreddit. Press Ctrl C and then paste that right here. So that's the URL to our JSON data. And that gets passed in through this argument here. Then we can start doing stuff with that. So to avoid confusion, because our JSON data has an object called data and our parameter name is data, let's just rename this to Reddit JSON, which is a bit more of a descriptive name. That way we don't get confused with this data value here that we have in our JSON. Alright, so now let's do something with that JSON data. Let's create a variable. We'll call it img data, which will hold the image data, and we'll set that equal to the Reddit JSON. Then we'll go through the nested objects, so .data, .children, which is an array, and let's just grab that first item from that array for now. And then we want the data.thumbnail key for that, which holds the URL of that thumbnail image. And then we'll target the gallery div, which we haven't created yet, but we'll create that in just a second. And let me zoom in for you so you can see the code more clearly. So we're going to target that gallery div, which we'll create in a second, and we'll just pass in the image data that we created right above this line. And now let's actually make that gallery. So that's going to be a div. It's going to have the ID of gallery, and then we'll just close it. Perfect, just like that. So what we're doing here is we're grabbing that JSON data, passing it through as Reddit JSON. Then we're storing the URL for a thumbnail image into image data. So that's inside Reddit JSON data .data.children, and we're grabbing that first element in the array. And then for that element, we're getting the .data.thumbnail, which I did not spell correctly. It's a little typo there. So it's .thumbnail. And then we're just grabbing the reference to our div that we created up here, and then displaying the text of that image data. So if we zoom back out, you'll see that we have the text here. So it just prints the URL for our image. So you can see it's quite a long URL. Alright, so now let's go ahead and actually append an image tag to this gallery, so we get an actual image rather than just the URL displaying here. So we'll just backspace here, delete that. So image gallery dot append, because we're going to be appending an image tag. And inside here, opening tag for the image, and the source, we'll set that equal to the image data. And then we'll close our tag. Alright, so this image data here needs to be inside of strings inside of this source attribute. So that's why we use these quotation marks, so we don't get a syntax error if we're using all of these double quotation marks throughout this line here. So we have an image tag with the source inside of quotation marks equal to the image data, which is the URL for that thumbnail image. And this is just getting appended to our gallery here. So if we did this correctly, we should be seeing an image on the screen plus img data. It looks like there's a typo somewhere, and I just forgot to add that extra exclamation, the extra quotation mark. Sorry about that. So just a little typo on my part. So if you type it out like that, that'll add an image tag to our div here with the URL equal to whatever this image data holds. And then you can see now here, you get the actual thumbnail image displayed to us here in our app. So let me zoom back out. Alright, so now let's go ahead and loop through all the images and add them to the HTML document. So if you go back here, you see inside of children, we have a whole bunch of objects here inside of this children array, each of which represents a single thread here in this subreddit. So we want to loop through each of these and then grab that thumbnail image from that thread and then display it here, rather than just having that one image we have now. Alright, so we're going to do that with a loop. We're going to use a for loop. So we're just going to wrap this code inside of that. So let me zoom back in for you. And let's start writing our loop. So we're going to start with I equal to 1. And we're going to be keep going for the length of that array. So that's Reddit JSON dot data dot children, which is our array. So we want to grab the length of that. So this will make sure that we keep going until we reach the length of our array.